Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I got just kind of overwhelmed and taken aback as I start to see all the names coming through. It was just so uplifting. But good afternoon. I am Shaketta Thomas, the president of COABE, and I just want to say thank you so much and continue to add your names and say hello, and so we can see who's all in the room. But I truly thank you for joining us today for this very important conversation. It has been a time of uncertainty, and that's probably an understatement. And we here at COABE know that a lot of us are trying to figure out what are the next steps and what is going on. But the one thing that we know for sure is that when we come together as a community and a united front, we can do mighty things together. And that's what today's conversation is all about. How do we address this skinny budget? How do we do the things that can ensure the success of not just our programs, because it's not really about us, but to ensure the success of our learners and continue to provide that such needed support because funding for adult education is truly a lifeline for millions and millions of learners who are working every day just to build better futures for themselves, their families, and their communities. And all of you here today play such an important role. So today, I am joined by some very wonderful people where we have tried to come up with an advocacy plan to help fuel and charge what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. And I am joined today also, who I will give the floor to next, our CEO, Sharon Bonney, who has been hard at work all this week, just really trying to develop an action plan to address the skinny budget. So I will turn it over to Sharon. Sharon?
Thank you so much, Shiketa. Welcome, everybody. There are over 1,600 people registered for this webinar. So many in the field, just like you, are very interested in how they can raise their voice for adult education. So I'm going to have Erin go to the next slide, please. And we are going to review the agenda. What's in the FY26 budget proposal? What's really at stake? What is COABE doing? What can you do? Tools and actions, voices from the field, as well as next steps. So if we go to the next slide, please, we will see that what has COABE done and what do we do? COABE has led sustained multi-year activities since 2017. Many of you are aware of the award-winning Educate and Elevate Public Awareness campaign, which is still going. We're still capturing student success stories, fact sheets, and videos. We also created the award-winning State Advocate Fellowship for Adult Education. This is where we help leaders to talk to mayors, governors, and members of Congress. We also lead the Advocacy April and the National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. Those are two events that take place every single year. We've created the monthly Public Policy Pulse newsletter, which is our most read newsletter. We work with Congress regularly to revise the law, host legislative events, and ensure that adult education is front and center. And then, of course, we create our impact report that celebrates the victories and successes. So if we go to the next slide, please, we can talk about what has COABE done since the release of the skinny budget. We have continued the advocacy efforts that have been taking place year over year. We recently held scope of work meetings with our partners, talking about what can we do, what will NASD do, for example. We've been in DC advocating in person. We've scheduled this webinar to help the field. We've sent multiple e-blasts calling for all members to take action. We've created email and phone templates to help advocacy be a lighter lift because we understand there's a lot of other things to do in the classroom. We've created an advocacy toolkit, launched local, which we're going to talk about in just a bit here, and we've also put together a media toolkit and campaign. Now, none of this would be possible without Erin Verbornik, who is on right now, and she's going to be speaking a little bit later, but I'd love for her to turn on her video so you could see her because she has been working so hard behind the scenes. Thank you, Erin, for your wonderful work. We recently gave Erin a promotion. She's now the initiatives director, in part because of the fabulous work she's been doing on advocacy, the State Association Leadership Institute, and working with the students as leaders. So thank you, Erin, for your wonderful work. We're going to go to the next slide. And this was Shiketa's idea. So Shiketa, would you like to talk about the faces of adult education? So the idea here with the Faces of Adult Education campaign is that adult education encompasses ESL learners, it encompasses ABE learners, those who need to get their high school equivalency, those that need the digital equity skills, and on the list goes. And we really wanted to make that clear that many have gone from, for example, this one from GED recipient to lawyer, from English language learner to a manager at Amazon, and on the list goes. So we have this campaign in place. I give a special thank you to James Bonney, who worked on this along with Julie Knack. And we'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to turn this over to Elise Wash with Penn Hill Group. We have partnered with Penn Hill Group for years now. They are our public policy firm, and they are right there in DC, provide the best of the best advice that we could find. And so, Elise, we'll turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I think it probably makes sense to start off not exactly with the skinny budget, because there is some additional context on how we got to this point. First, I think it's worth recognizing that these are not traditional times in Washington, and the budget processes have not been following the usual path that they have over the last few years. But there are two things right now that is at play with respect to adult education funding at the federal level. Congress passed a full year continuing resolution, otherwise known as a CR, for fiscal year 2025 in March. That's the current fiscal year that we are in now. The federal fiscal year is different than most state and localities' fiscal years. Our fiscal year in the federal government runs from October 1st to September 30th. So we are currently in the fiscal year 2025 fiscal year, which will take us through September 30th of this year. Typically, continuing resolutions continue funding just as it was from the prior year. That's what it like continuing. We're continuing the funding. So in this case, for the fiscal year 2025 continuing resolution, it should be just taking up the funding that was in FY24, which would mean level funding for adult education, meaning that state grants would be $715.455 million, and national activities about just over $13 million. What didn't happen this time around is the CR didn't include directive language requiring the president and his administration to continue to fund programs that were not specifically mentioned in the prior fiscal year. They were not specifically written out in the bill text. This is an issue for adult education because the way adult education has been funded, it has been grouped together with CTE funding. So the administration was required to let Congress know what it was going to do with this kind of new flexibility, although Congress did intend for programs to be funded just as they were in FY24. They were required to send this plan up on April 29th. That plan was sent, but it was not made public and it was not fully complete. It didn't even mention adult education funding. What it did say was that CTE funding will be funded at the FY24 level, which was as expected. We were supposed to expect all programs should be funded at the prior funding year level. So that leads to some uncertainty that you might be hearing from your states, since the Department of Education has not yet provided an estimated allocation of how much funding it will send out to states by July 1st. We hope that there will be this funding and that it will come and it will be similar to the FY24 level. Again, that is what Congress intended, but that has not always been the way this administration has been operating. So we're going to have to wait and see. And I know that that provides a lot of uncertainty in your states, but this is across the country that uncertainty exists. And we at COABE are working very hard with the Department of Education to find out this information and get it out to the field as soon as possible. COABE has written and met with the Department of Education in service of this goal. So on top of the uncertainty for the FY25 budget cycle, we have what has been called the skinny budget that President Trump sent up to Congress last week. It's called a skinny budget, as you might expect, because it's not the full budget. It's only some programs that have been listed and mentioned, and without a lot of detail, the way a typical budget would be from the president. You know, I just want you to know a president's budget is just that. It's in this case, President Trump proposes a budget, but it's just the paper it's written on. It's Congress who gets to decide how to fund programs. The Congress holds the power of the purse through the Constitution, and it is through the annual appropriations process that programs like adult education get funded. So in this skinny budget, the president is proposing that adult education funding be zeroed out. So that is alarming, but the story doesn't end here. The president's budget does not become law in and of itself. It's what the president proposes. And we just wanted to mention and share with you some of the points that the president in the budget included for why he believes that there should be no funding for adult education from the federal level going forward. And I think this is part and parcel of this administration's hope that they will be able to end the Department of Education and send funding that typically goes from the federal government down to the states, and for the states to make these decisions. They also rest their case on old data that isn't accurate or really reflective of the work that you do every day to make sure learners get the skills that they need, the credentials that they need, the further education that they need to get jobs in this economy and be the skilled workers that employers are looking for. That data is just outdated. It has been a longstanding issue that COABE has been pushing to get better data for the field that really does show the successes that you make every day. And that's something that COABE will continue to work on. But I want you to be aware of a fact that happened during the president's first term in office. While his budgets then did not zero out adult education funding, they did say that there should be less funding for adult education. But I want you to know that we came out of that stronger and with more funding. And it was through your collective advocacy and working with our bipartisan champions in the Senate and the House that we were not only able to protect adult education funding, but grow it from $591.6 million to $674.6 million. So an increase of about $80 million during the time period where President Trump was in office during his first term. So that is what we need to do once again. We need to raise all of our collective voices and urge members of Congress to continue the investment in adult education. The ball is now in Congress's court. We need you to continue to share the stories with your members of Congress about the transformative power of adult education. We need you to back up your stories with data and compelling stories of adults who have succeeded and are doing amazing things in your communities. What are the literacy levels of adults in your state? How many adults in your community need literacy skills? How long is your waiting list? What have adults gained from your program in terms of employment opportunities or further education? What is the broader impact of adult education in terms of individuals and their families, employers in your community, the reduction in social assistance, the reduction in recidivism, and overall strengthening the local and national economy? Those are the kinds of things, those kind of details are really critical for you to try to find out if you don't already know. But those are the kinds of things that members of Congress will want to hear as you make the case for why there should be more adult education funding, and for sure that it should not go away. Right now, there is a funding request letter circulating in the House of Representatives. It is this kind of letter that we want members of Congress to join, to let it be known to the Appropriations Committee, who will decide what the funding levels will be for the coming fiscal year 26, that adult education should not only be funded, but also increased. The letter is being led by Representative Dan Goldman of New York, and so far there are about 20 members who have signed on. That's out of 435 members in the House. Only Democrats have signed. We need to get these numbers up, and we need to find Republicans willing to put their name on the letter and champion adult education. We are also hopeful that there will soon be a bipartisan letter circulating in the Senate. In the Senate, we have had better success with having a bipartisan approach to funding adult education. That effort has been led by Senator Jack Reed, a Democrat from Rhode Island, and Senator Todd Young, a Republican from Indiana. That letter is not yet circulating. We're waiting to hear what the prospects will be, but we hope it will be out soon. As soon as this webinar is over, this is the thing that we need you to do right away. Use the 3-click system to send your member of Congress a letter and tweet that urges them to sign this adult education funding letter. But don't stop there. For an added punch, you can write a more personalized email that you can send to a member of Congress's staff, a staff member who we hope you will become friendly with over the coming months and years. We want you to be someone they can reach out to as a resource in the community, and in turn, someone they might listen to in order to galvanize their member to work and act on behalf of adult learners in their district. You can take this opportunity to invite the staffer and their member of Congress to a graduation or to visit and see your work firsthand so they can know what you are doing each and every day, the important work you are doing, and how they need to support it. We have provided templates for you to take these actions. You just have to add your personal touch and press a few more buttons. Your efforts are critical, and we encourage you to take these steps. And I can't implore you enough how important your advocacy is at this moment of time. So that way we can tell Congress, who has the opportunity to fund adult education into the future, that it is so important that they do so. Thanks so much. And I'm going to turn things over to Erin, I believe.
Thank you, Elise, for that information. And I've been monitoring the Q&A as it's been going. And so again, we hope to have time to get to all of those questions because they're great questions. But even if we don't, we will get answers to those and then share those back out with the field so that everybody has access to those answers. So I wanted to share some of the resources that are available because we know that I'm going to start first with kind of the foundational elements of advocacy. So if you don't even know where to begin, where can you start? And then I'll lead into things that are very focused on this immediate need that we have to contact our legislators regarding appropriations. And so first, if you don't even know about advocacy, right, I understand not everybody has time to read long articles or attend webinars, and that's why we have kind of bite-sized episodes related to advocacy. So it goes over kind of what's happening on the Hill, how to mobilize locally, some effective strategies and tips, and then you also get to just hear from others who have engaged in advocacy, their process in doing that engagement work. And so it gives you, again, a wider pool of individuals that you can reach out to and just to be able to hear what the field is already doing. And I'll say this, we on the Advocacy, we do feature our SAFE fellows, and to further emphasize how much work that COABE has put into advocacy, even over the past 5 years, we've now trained almost 200 state advocate for adult education fellows. Those are individuals from across the nation who are ready to answer the call of advocacy, and they have a passion for advocacy, and so they're ready to bring you into the advocacy fold as well. We also have over 200 student ambassadors who have been trained across the nation in terms of advocacy and storytelling. So we have mobilization that has already been in effect. And so here, these are, again, just some of the ways that we get that information out. So I know Sharon teased local, and one of the most powerful things we've learned over the years is this, that advocacy works best when it's local, right? When we start with those we know, and then we start to build out. And so that's why we've launched Local, which stands for Lifting Our Communities Through Advocacy and Leadership. And the plan was to launch this a little bit later, but we pivoted because we saw that there was a need and that individuals will need to be connected to resources and action steps for advocacy at all levels. And so we are launching this now. And this program is about bringing advocacy down to the level where change is lived every day in classrooms, at front desks, in community rooms, student circles. And Local helps every program, big or small, to raise its voice and make an impact. And so this is how it works. Each program can designate one representative, someone who's ready to take the lead and kind of act as that COABE liaison for your program. It could be a teacher, a coordinator, a staff member, or even a student leader. And then the local leader will go through a clear supportive process where we'll get them oriented. They'll join our local community. We'll have some action steps that they can choose from, a menu of different options that would work for any comfort level of advocacy, developing that local plan, and then helping to make that advocacy and local leadership happen. And then, of course, sharing those stories and celebrating those wins. And once they've completed those core steps, then they'll earn a local badge, which kind of acts as that symbol of leadership, advocacy, and commitment to adult education. And what I really want to highlight here is that it is not about perfection. This is about participation. You do not need to be a policy expert. In fact, we don't expect anybody to join who is a policy expert. You just need to care about your program and your students and be willing to take some small steps so that you can help make sure that this pivotal information about where we are right now and the advocacy that needs to happen can make it out through your program. And again, we'll work with you every single step of the way. And we'll put a link in the chat. If you are interested in that, you can sign up and we'll get you oriented and get you ready to go. It is asynchronous with some options for a monthly chat online to get that support that you need. But otherwise, it can be done around your own schedule because we understand all programs have different start and end dates for classes. We are all in a constant cycle of preparing for the next while we are doing what we're doing now and tying up the strings from the last. So ensuring that we're able to get that information to you around a schedule that works for each individual. And as I said, we're now going to become more and more fine-tuned and dig in about what you can do right now as it relates to this FY26 budget, right? This is where you come in because advocacy isn't just something that organizations do. It's not for executives. It's not for policy experts. It's for anyone who cares about adult education. And that means you, right? You care because you are here today. And the good news is that you do not need to start from scratch. We've built out a full set of tools to make advocacy easy, fast, and effective. I'll say we have spent a lot of time this week retooling some of the previous information that we had and making it relevant for right now. And we will continue to add things to that Faces of Adult Education webpage as they come in, as things progress, as perhaps the situation changes. Again, we are always advocating and we will continue to, and we will be making those updates so that you can make sure that anytime you go to that page, you will have the most up-to-date resources and tools to be able to engage in advocacy. So some of the things that you'll see that are available on that page is the 3-click advocacy software. And we use that for our phone scripts. So if you are somebody who would prefer to make a phone call, we do have a phone script available. So you will type in your address. It will show you the list of individuals for whom you are a constituent. And then here's the key. If you click on the little phone icon, the script will open up. And of course, that is just a jumping off point, right? It's really helpful when you can customize it with stories or with information relevant and specific to that member of Congress's district or their state, so that they can actually see that impact that adult education is having. So again, feel free to make those changes, or if you feel like, okay, this is my first time making a phone call, I'm just going to say it as it is, that works as well. You're able to also access emails that will get sent out immediately to those legislators. All emails you have access to be able to, again, make any adaptations that you would like. And then we have a Twitter storm. So if you do still have a Twitter account there in the Twitterverse, this is something that's very helpful. So a lot of legislators are on Twitter. And so that is why we use the Twitter storm function, is because it will automatically tag them. It sends out that Twitter storm, but it does not continue posting for you. It just sends out those tweets that you see, and that is it. So that is another good way of getting attention and making a good ruckus out there. We also have our Educate and Elevate America pledge, and that's an easy way for the public, for your friends, for your family, those who are not directly connected to adult education, to be able to show their support. They don't have to send an email, they don't have to call, though that would be amazing if they did. The pledge just basically says, I support adult education. It takes less than 30 seconds to sign, and we are able to use that data to actually say, okay, when we meet with Congressperson X, we can see the number of individuals within their district who have signed the Educate and Elevate America pledge. And that just helps to show them the support that adult education has within their particular district, because as detailed as you can get about their district and their area, the better. We also have some other grassroots tools in there. So there is the Dear Colleague outreach, which is that appropriations letter. Ask your members of Congress to sign on. We have, you could create letter campaigns and share those. And that's, I'll say, from those folks with me from Illinois, we did have a budget impasse years ago, about 10 years ago, maybe, where we did not have a budget for over 800 days. And so we engaged in a lot of that grassroots advocacy, like letter campaigns, where students would write those letters, and their representatives would basically be getting box loads of letters from the adult education students. And you know what? That budget got reinstated. Again, if you're somebody who prefers a phone call, you can do call-in days, which is essentially like a letter writing campaign, but you say on May 9th, we are going to call in to all of the members of Congress within our state, and we are going to do that calling all on the same day. And the reason why is that gets their attention. It's not, it's that probably same member of staff who's picking up that phone each time and going, oh, it's another one. It's another one. And that information it'll be noticed. And then, of course, other program-led actions like advocacy bulletin boards, and integrating those letter writing sessions into the classroom. So if you're thinking, I'm just one person, what difference can I make? I want you to remember this, that every wave starts with a ripple, and your voice may be the one that tips the balance. Every email, every phone call, every post, it all adds up. And right now, we need all hands on deck. So my call to action for you is that after this session, pick one action, just one, and do it immediately. right? Then challenge 3 other people to do the same. And that's how we build a movement. And that is how we protect adult education. And again, you can find links to many of these tools on our Faces of Adult Education campaign page. Toward the end of the webinar, we'll kind of cycle back around to some action items. But before we do so, I have the pleasure of turning it over to Jamie Trujillo, who is a member of, is on COABE's board, but apart from that, is just an incredible advocate. And Jamie, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it from there.
Thank you so much, Erin. Yes, my name is Jamie Trujillo. I am the Engagement and Accessibility Chair of the COABE Board, as well as the Executive Director of the New Mexico Adult Education Association. And one thing that I really want to stress when it comes to just advocacy on a local level is that state associations really have the opportunity to support practitioners in their advocacy efforts. It could be something as simple as sharing out an email from COABE. Research shows that people have to be told something 8 times before they actually take action. So if you are just forwarding an email, then that is going to be part of that 8 times. So one thing that NMEA does regularly is share COABE's emails from or to its membership, even though NMEA members are already COABE members, which means they've probably already gotten that email. We do that again. We also have webinars statewide and resources online. If your state association, or if you're a state without a state association and you just are looking to share information, if you can go to NMEA's webpage. It's nmadulted.org. Look for our advocacy pages. You can click on advocacy and it will take you to the main advocacy page, but we also have some drop downs just to get an idea of the kind of resources that we have available to our members at all times. And these are public. So you can see things like email templates or video tutorials or recordings of webinars that we've done. And you can see here, I have a QR code that you can scan right now, or you can access it later. I believe these slides are going to be shared. So this takes you to NMEA's Advocacy Toolkit, which is just a Google Drive folder where we have email templates, we have slides templates, we do have video tutorials there, we have talking points, we have a lot of COABE's resources in there. And so it's just another way of sharing COABE's resources. And another thing that I really, really want to stress as far as ways that state associations can support practitioners is the student ambassador training. So this is kind of my hat as NMEA's executive director and as a COABE board member. The COABE student ambassador training is hands down one of the most valuable trainings that you can engage in as a state, that you can support as a state. You can do local trainings and COABE can support that. So if you email ambassadorcoordinator@coabe.org, you can get more information about how to bring the COABE student ambassador training to your state. New Mexico has done 3 of these. They have been incredibly impactful. We have our latest cohort of student ambassadors who were very active in our last legislative session and who are now being mobilized on a federal level to contact all of our legislators about this skinny budget. These are the people that they want to hear from. No more than anybody else, our students are who they want to hear from. And so if you are able to invest in that student ambassador training in any way, we do this during our annual conference, some other states do the same, it would be really impactful for you to do that, even if it's an abbreviated form of the training. Anything you can do to get your students involved is going to be your best bet. And I was actually hoping to have one of our student ambassadors on the webinar today, but unfortunately, and yet fortunately, there were a lot of graduations and graduation rehearsals happening that they are involved in. And so even though we weren't able to get any student ambassadors involved live, on the next slide, I do have a video that one of my student ambassadors created and sent to me, just talking about the importance of advocacy from a student perspective and what the ambassador training means to this person. So if you could go to the next slide.
Hi everyone, my name is Deborah. I'm a student ambassador from New Mexico, Albuquerque. They have questions about why advocacy is so important. In my sense, in my point of view, it's because it gives voice to issues, communities, and individuals who may not be heard otherwise. And it promotes awareness, drives positive change, and helps build a more inclusive and a just society. And why it's so important to advocate as a student ambassador. As a student ambassador, it's important because it empowers you to represent your peers, drive improvements, promote inclusion, develop leadership skills, inspire others. Thank you for listening.
So I will just, wrap up by saying, first off, Deborah is one of our most recent student ambassadors who completed this year and is a lawyer from Brazil and has just been so eloquent and very active in representing the ESL population. And she is just one of, now we have 14 total who are active. So it's wonderful to have that student voice. It's wonderful to have that student participation. And yes, if you are able to support this in your state, please do. And I will put my email in the chat as well in case anybody has any other questions with regard to any ways that state associations can support. I am happy to talk with you about that. So with that, I will turn it back over to Erin. Thank you.
You, Jamie. Okay. So I think that it's important to be clear right now that this is the moment to mobilize, and that we're not going to win this by hoping that somebody else steps up. We're going to win it because all of us step up together. And when I say mobilize, I don't just mean email your legislator once and call it a day, even though that's the ask for right now. But we mean to build a wave of voices that are loud, united, and everywhere so that it's not easy to ignore the impact. So who do you need? So we need state association boards and members. These are the people who already know how to organize at scale, right? If you are in a state that has an active state association, they most likely have an advocacy committee, and most likely advocacy is part of their mission. And so that is a great place to a great organization to reach out to really begin mobilizing individuals within your state. And then we work with those state associations to help provide resources and tools to ensure that that you're able to be successful. We also need local programs, right? The boots on the ground individuals, because you are the direct line to learners, right? You know their concerns. I'll say that on Tuesday night, I had a conversation with some of my former adult learners. We met on Zoom, and I shared the information about the FY26 budget with them. And it was a heartbreaking moment because just the look on their faces, but they are partners. in this work. So our adult learners they're the most powerful messengers that we have, because their stories are so, I mean, it's at the heart of what we do. And I'll say to you the same thing that I said to my adult learners. I said, you know, if you feel called to help with this, reach out to me and I will work with you to find a way to advocate that works for you. But I also told them that if you feel like you are unsafe doing any sort of particular advocacy where it might have your name or your image attached to it, but you still want to help, again, reach out to me. There are other ways to advocate that don't put you in the spotlight. And so I'll share that again with everybody here, that if you want to do advocacy, but you're feeling like I'm not sure which way to do it, we are here to help. And then all possible partners, we need them. I saw some great questions in the Q&A about partnering with like the American Association of Community Colleges, and that we're working with as many partners as we can to help lift this voice. So workforce boards, employers, chambers of commerce, anyone who benefits when adult learners succeed. And spoiler, that's everybody. So everyone has a role, everyone has influence. And the key is we have to make it easy for people to plug in, and that's where you can come in. So please share the advocacy toolkit, which you can find on that Faces of Adult Education webpage that I'm sure has been shared many times now in that chat. Please make sure you look for that. It's also going to be linked and shared out after the webinar, along with the recording. Post on social media, just whatever it can, like, advocacy becomes doable when we break it down and we share the load. So if you're a teacher who's never called their senator before, find somebody who has, to help you walk through it. Maybe you have an adult learner who, quite simply, this is scary because they don't know how US government works. They don't know what Congress does. Show them how Congress fits in to their story and fits into this movement that we're building. And it's not about doing it all. It's just about doing your part and helping another person do theirs. And for that, we have to be unified. One message, one ask, one voice. And so that's where this message really comes in, our core message. The one thing we're really focused on right now is telling our members of Congress, we need you to sign the bipartisan Dear Colleague letter in support of adult education funding. This letter is how members of Congress show public official support for funding adult education in the federal budget. When they sign it, they're sending a message to the Appropriations Committee that says, we back these programs, we want them funded, we understand their value. The more signatures that letter gets, especially the bipartisan support, the stronger our position becomes. And again, it shows momentum, it shows demand, and it again shows bipartisan support, which is critical right now. And again, this sets the tone, because these letters set the tone, because when Congress starts debating this budget, they look at how many of their colleagues signed on to support the program, and a strong letter could mean the difference between full funding, flat funding, whatever it might be. So this is one of the most effective things that you can do right now, is encouraging your members of Congress to sign the Dear Colleague letter. And the nice part is you don't have to convince them to write something from scratch. Right? The letter's already been written, it's been circulated. All they have to do is add their name, and they know how to do that. So if your legislator has signed on in past years, thank them, ask them to do it again. If they haven't, this is your moment to explain how adult education is changing lives in your community. And if you're unsure if they have signed in the past, again, feel free to reach out, advocacy@coabe.org. We're happy to connect you to that information so that you can kind of set the tone in your messages of one of either we would love to have you sign on for the first time, or thank you for signing on in the past. I noticed you haven't signed on yet this year. I strongly encourage you to do that. And here's a story of the impact within your district. So our ask to you is make this message your mission for right now. So whether you're sending an email, making a phone call, posting on social, right, this message is front and center, because it helps us to protect adult education. And I see that Elise put the link to that letter into the chat. And Elise, I will just say, right, if you try to pull up that on your device, it does not allow you to see it. And Elise, is it because only members of Congress able to see the quill?
Yes, and I've actually been responding to many of the questions in the Q&A to this effect. So if people are able to go through that Q&A and see some of the answers, I've tried to respond to as many of the questions as I could during this webinar. The link is not broken for the members of Congress, although someone did send a note saying that their member of Congress's staff said it was. So I am checking on the URL right now with Representative Dan Goldsman's office. If the link has changed, I will send that out. But please remember, you will not be able to access that link. The link is only provided in the advocacy letters that COABE has drafted for you so that the member of Congress and their staff could just quickly click the link or copy the URL into their browser to sign the letter. We wanted to make it easier for them. So I know it's confusing for you, but it will be easier for them in the long run. So.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you for answering those questions in the chat as well. So what are some steps that you can take? So again, these are some things that you can do today because they are fast, they're simple, and they are still powerful. Right. So sign that Educate and Elevate America pledge. If you have not, send those pre-written messages to your members of Congress using the 3-click software that we have. And then send a message, post on social media. That way others can see. And a recommendation is maybe tag some individuals in there who are outside of our field, who are not already hearing about this, who don't already know about what is going on, so that they can join us. So what about next week, right? After you enjoy your weekend, right? Advocacy isn't one and done. The real power comes from keeping that momentum going. So here are some steps that you could take next week. You could host a mini advocacy huddle. This could be as simple as a 15-minute gathering virtually or in person with some others who you know who are eager to take action, and you can kind of pick 1 or 2 next actions together and then work as a team to get them done, so that it's not that every part of that task is resting solely on your shoulders. And as we all know, the power of collaboration, it yields the best results. And you might come up with something really innovative. And if you do, please share that back with us. You can lift up student stories. Again, with their permission, if this is something that they want to do, you can have a learner write a short quote, record a video, write it out in a letter. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be real. And then share it with lawmakers, post it on social, send it to COABE, we'll amplify it, again, with their permission. right? One student voice can be more persuasive than 100 data points. And then next, if your state has a state association, please connect with them, connect with their advocacy committee or their advocacy network. I can tell you from communications with a lot of the state associations, they are in conversations, they're having meetings about this. This right came as a shock to everybody, and so please connect with them, add your voice to their efforts, and bring ideas, bring your skills and your capacity to be able to help reach out at that state level. And if you don't know how to connect with that state association, again, feel free to reach out and we can help you get connected. So again, this is how we sustain that movement. And then as we look further on, if we look beyond next week, right, this kind of battle for adult education funding doesn't end today. It doesn't end next week. You know, Christine and COABE posted on social media recently, advocacy is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and we have to stay in this race. So these are some of your long-term next steps, actions that help build that sustained pressure, keep adult education visible, respected, and protected. Right? Even if we get that full funding back, we need to continue this visibility to ensure that these we're not kicking the can down the road to another fiscal year and another fiscal year. So please stay informed and stay visible. We'll be continuing to share communications as the federal budget develops, and also stay in regular contact with your state and federal representatives. Even those quick updates, right? I have created some lasting relationships with members of Congress's offices where I'll send, after that first meeting, I have their office email. I can send an email and say, hey, can we just hop on a Zoom for 15 minutes in the next week so I can just give you some updates? And the updates might be little things. It might be sharing just one new data point or one new student story. But again, it keeps you front and center so that adult education doesn't fade from their mind. And then, of course, raise local awareness. Don't wait for those national headlines. Be the headline in your community. You can host a community conversation about adult education and the budget threat. You can submit a letter to the editor of your local newspaper. Invite a legislator to tour your program. And I'll say we do have a phenomenal media toolkit up on that Faces of Adult Education page under number 4, where it says pen and op-ed, and it'll give you resources for how to work with your local media, or even invite a legislator to tour your program, meet students, or this is the key, to attend graduation. Right? This is a pivotal time. If you have a graduation, reach out, right? Invite those senators, even if they cannot attend. Somebody's reading that invitation, somebody's monitoring it, and they have spreadsheets galore where they're putting in every invitation that they've gotten and for what it was about. So please make sure that you set those invitations. You never know. I'll say one of our Safe Fellows, I'm not sure if she's on today, and I didn't ask her permission to say her name, so I'll keep it to myself. Had a conversation with with congressional staff for a member of Congress in her district, and then that conversation led to the congressman saying, I would love to come to your program and teach a civics lessons directly to your GED students. So you never know what could happen when you reach out. And again, even if it feels like you're just chipping away at a brick wall, it is making a difference, because you are not alone. You are one of many who are going to be doing this work. And again, it's going to take all of us to make sure that we are able to sustain. So this is the same link that has been shared multiple times in the chat. Also the QR code in case you would like to have it pulled up on your phone. We'll continue to update this website with new resources. So please check back on a continuous basis. I also want to say that one of the most powerful parts of our successful initiatives, like the State Advocates for Adult Education Fellowship and the State Association Leadership Institute, is the community that's been built. Seeing what others are doing across the nation inspires innovation, and we want to bring that opportunity to connect to everyone through our communities of practice. So if you're interested in joining a community so that you're able to do what's happening in the chat, but on a sustainable basis, please make sure that you sign up for a community of practice. And Sharon, I'm not sure if you would like to close us out here.
I would love to. I think the most important message we could share with you, which Erin has said repeatedly, but I just want to underscore this. We've been here before. We were here in 2004. We were here at the last Trump administration. And as Elise had said, we came out stronger. And you know why? Because the field really galvanized and they got involved and they took action. So I really want to encourage you, everything that you do makes a difference. All, as Erin said, every email you're sending, the phone calls, rallying your students, working with your state association, inviting your legislators to visit, all of that matters. It all does, every bit of it. So we have tried to make this as easy as possible, but I think the last piece of this is we're always available at advocacy at coabe.org. We have our 800 number 188 44 442 COABE. You can always contact us there. We'll get back to you within 24 hours or less. But it's going to take all of us to do this. But I really believe and I have hope that we can do this. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Erin, for your hard work putting all this together. Thank you, Jamie, our Accessibility and Engagement Director. Thank you, Shiketa, our Board President, and of course, Elise from Penn Hill Group. Thank you for your work as well. So we look forward to seeing you all on the other side of this, but just know that we'll be working very hard in the meantime, and you can always contact us. You're going to see us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X. You'll see us out there constantly working. You'll see us on the e-blast. You'll see the emails coming out. We're just going to continue working. We're going to continue working with our student ambassadors, our state advocate fellows, now our local advocates as well, and all of our partners too. So with that, I say thank you. And I know Erin is closing us out here. Erin, we can see your screen. So we will go ahead and close us out. And Chiquetta, I'm going to turn this over to you. I see you turned your screen on.
Thank you, Sharon. And I just want to say thank you to everyone on the call, Erin, Jamie, Elise. Just thank you for being available to be able to share this great information so that can we all be united as one front to go out there and really make an impact and a change and keep your spirits, stay hopeful, because we will get through this together. So thanks, everyone. And until next time.